Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to be tackling the last project that I'm probably going to be able to get done for before Christmas. Is going to be the kimono and the hakama, which are the pants. So the two patterns that I'm using are the folkwear patterns, 113 and 151. The hakama, that one is the Japanese hakama and kataguni, I think, but I'm just making the hakama, which are the pants. And then the Japanese kimono. And these are going to be made out of, I'm gonna make the pants out of a simple quilting cotton, black quilting cotton for my son, because this is really, he has some other fabric that he wants me to use later, but for right now we're just doing that because it will look better with the fabric that he chose for the kimono. And the kimono fabric, I don't have it on hand, but I'll insert a picture over here of what it looks like. It has like some Japanese writing on it, and so that one I'm going to be making in that fabric that I just posted here. So I'm excited to get started with this. This should be a relatively simple project, I'm hoping. I know that the kimono is going to have a lot of hand sewing and potentially I might decide to embroider, but at this moment right now I just want to get it done. So let's go get started. So here I am cutting out the pieces of the kimono based on the pattern. So I made it to the biggest size and then cut down, or not cut, rather you fold over the seam allowances and hand sew them down. So you adjust it based off of that. And then I also cut out the hakama. They have directions in the pattern instructions on how exactly to cut the hakama out. And then some of the pieces are pattern pieces. However, most of it is just measuring out, marking where the pleats were based on their directions and your measurements. However, I do not have the video footage for this because I do not know what happened to it. I was sure that I recorded it, but I cannot find it anywhere in any of my hard drives or my computer or any of the video cards that I currently have. So it must have gotten deleted somewhere. this clip, I am ironing my pleats and getting ready for sewing. I have already marked the pleat on one of the pant legs, and then the other side, I did not mark the pleats, so that's why I'm ironing them so they can be marked on the other side. I am ironing the waist ties. So how I iron these is I iron them in half, and then I iron them towards the center and then back in half, kind of like how you would do for a bias binding. So these ones I believe are the front pieces, and then those get attached to the waistband in the front, and then the back ones get attached to the waistband as well, but you sew them together all the way down, and they are much longer. So I'm pretty sure this one is the front one because the back one's really big. So here I'm sewing together the ends of the waist ties for the front waist tie. This one gets attached to the waistband and then closed, and then the back waist tie gets attached to the back, but it's closed all the way down. So I sew the entire length of this one all the way down with the top stitch or edge stitch, whichever one you want to call it. And then this one, like I said, it gets attached to the koshida and covered by the koshida triangles. So in this one, I'm sewing together the crotch seam to join the two legs together. So the two legs are kind of like big tubes. You only sew them together on the side seams. On the outside side seams, there's no seam on the inside side seams. And you basically take this big, huge rectangle of fabric and then cut like a U shape out of the center, which makes the crotch seam, and then you sew that together. And then you make your pleats on either side of it. So it's a relatively easy pattern. The hardest part was figuring out how to put the pleats in and the waist ties. And then here on the sides, you have these folded over pieces. They're called something specific, but I cannot remember. And then you iron them and press them down, and then you sew them in place by hand. So that would be my next step, is to hand sew all of these pieces down on all 4 edges. So here I've already done one of them, and then there's the other side that I still have to do. So now I'm going to hand sew all the rest of them. So these are the smaller ones that are in the front, and then the larger ones are in the back, and the larger ones feed into the koshida and are covered by the koshida triangles that you will see in the next clip. So in this clip, I'm hand sewing down those triangles to cover up the waist tie. So they go on either side of the koshida so that they cover up that waist tie that you just sewed in there. And then, like I said, they are actually supposed to face out, but when I put it together wrong, and I had put it together right the first time and took it apart already. So I did not want to do that again. And this was a lot of hand sewing. This project had probably more hand sewing in it than I have ever done. So it was a lot. Oh, I did it wrong. So this was where I realized that I had put that together wrong, and I did not want to rip all those seams out again. So I think I took a break at that point, and I ripped them out the next day, or the next day that I had off or whatever. So here in this clip, I am sewing down the back of that koshida piece to the back of the pants so that it hides all the raw edges. And again, like I said, I realized afterwards that I had put it on right the first time and then wrong the second time, and I decided just to leave it because unless you know what you're looking at, you can't tell. So I just left it the way it was, and it looks fine. So in this clip, I think that I am sewing together one of the side seams. I'm not 100% sure because I'm having a hard time seeing what I'm doing. However, I did realize just now that I did not record any of my pleating. So the pleating happened like right after you put the waistband on, and I did not record any of that. And here is a clip of Nightmare sleeping on the rug. He, for some reason, likes to sleep on the rug. But here's his cute little face. And then here, I think I'm just doing the other side seam and then closing that up. And then I think the next clip is where my son actually tries them on. So yes, this is me sewing the side seams together. So here is him trying on the pants, and I'm just checking the fit on these and to make sure that they are the right size and that I don't need to make any adjustments. So I do end up taking in the side seams just a little bit, and then I also obviously have to hem them because they are way too long on him. So here I'm hemming the bottom of the pants, and I took about 3 or 4 inches off the bottom of the pants, and I figured I would just hand sew these because I had hand sewed so much of this outfit already, so I might as well just hand sew the hem on it. So here we are onto the kimono, and this first part is just me sewing together the back yoke pieces and then sewing together the 2 back pieces. So I sewed together the 2 back pieces at center back, and then I sewed together the shoulders as well. So I sew the back piece to the front piece at the shoulder seams. So here I'm just finishing off the edges of the back yoke. So it just has you fold over and sew these pieces down, and then you can slip stitch them or finish them with the machine. I chose to use the machine because later I think I decided to slip stitch them to the back and front seams to hide these raw edges. And then you sew it in place on the back, on the inside, with wrong sides together, so that it will be right side out on the inside of the kimono. So after you do that, then you sew the overlap piece on, and this piece has like a little angled part to it, so you sew that on to the front piece. I am ironing all my seams to one side so that I can fell them down later or slip stitch it, whatever you want to call it. This piece also is supposed to be encased in the slip stitching down, whatever, because you are not supposed to be clipping any of your seam allowances. So traditionally what they do is they roll them over and encase them and fell them down, and that way if adjustments need to be made later, they can just take that hand sewing out and make it larger or smaller, whatever they need to do. And then here I'm just marking my seam allowance on here because it wants you to stay stitch it, and I also want to be able to make sure that I know exactly where I'm putting the overband, because I believe that is the next step to do, is to make the overband for the neck, and then you sew it on after you do the stay stitching so that you know where the stitching line is, because the stitching line is different on the top and then around the neck. And then here I'm just finishing off the raw edges on that overband piece or overlapped piece of the front. And then I'm folding those edges down. So I actually do the hand stitching for this next, even though the instructions don't tell you to do that, because if I didn't do it next, I wouldn't be able to finish those seams, because the next couple of seams would be covering them up, or at least part of them up. So I decided to just go ahead and finish them now because I knew I was going to have to hand sew them anyway. And here you can see that I am hand sewing those seam allowances down, and I do that on both sides. Okay, so this is what I've done so far. Here is the front, and this is the back. And these are like the lapel pieces. I hand stitched this seam allowance down here. There you go. Okay, you can see I hand stitched down that seam allowance. And then this got stitched down. I stitched on the back yoke. So now, let's see what we're gonna do next. So I'm gonna stitch along the sides here and then slip stitch this folded over part here down. So this piece is the overband that goes around the neck and down the sides to encase all of those raw edges that I still have visible on the sides, around the neck and on the side of the neck. So you'll see that in just a minute, but here I'm just stitching those sides down, and then I slip stitch that overband piece. So it's a band piece and then an overband piece, I guess to hide the raw edges. I'm not really sure why they do it like that, but it seems like it would make it much more bulky, but that's just how it's done, I guess. So it looks really nice. And then you can see here that I'm slip stitching that piece down so that it doesn't flap around and that it's all encased as well. So here you can see Nightmare has come for some snuggles, and I think that right after this my camera, the card is full, so it dies, and then I had to go and transfer all of that, which always takes forever. But yeah, we're just getting some snuggles from Nightmare because I think he was a little bit cold. Lately he's just been a little bit more needy because it's cold out. And So here I'm stitching that neckband piece on. I think I forgot to hit record on the very top portion of it, so where it goes around the top of the neck. I forgot to record that because here I'm stitching it down the sides. And then I'm going to do that down both sides. And then encase the raw edges by, I think there's you fold it into 3s and then you encase the raw edges, and I think I show that next. So here I am encasing those raw edges by folding it into three pleats, I believe, and then sewing the end of it, and then you turn it. So there I'm turning it. However, it is entirely too long in this case, so I end up going back and taking some more of it off. Of course I'm gonna slip stitch it, duh. So after I press all of these raw edges under and pin them in place, I go back and stitch that piece together so that it meets at the edge. And then, of course, I have to slip stitch all of these raw edges so that they're hidden. And here you can see that I have stitched the edge of that neckband so that it meets with the edge of that lapel piece, or whatever it's called in this particular case. And here I'm slip stitching all of that overband piece down. This was a really long seam, and I mean, there was just so much hand sewing in this project. However, I am happy with the way it came out. It came out looking really nice. So here I have decided to go and get my leather thimble, because with all of the sewing that I have done by hand in this project, my finger was killing me, and I knew I had even more to do, so I just grabbed my leather thimble to protect my finger. So in this clip, I am finishing off the raw edge of the sleeve that is going to be open. So it's just part of the sleeve on the outside of it, and then after I do that, then I attach it to the body. I still haven't closed up the side seams, so the side seams get closed up when you stitch the sleeves together. And here I am stitching the sleeves onto the top, and you stitch those on, matching the notches, I believe, or between the notches, however it wants you to do it. And then once you put those on, then you close the sleeve and you close the side seam as well. So here you can see that Nightmare has come to visit. He has demands for snuggles. He's such a cutie pie. He always like headbutts my face and stuff. And since he has that issue with his back, he can't really scratch his own ears and his neck. So if he starts to like scratch on the floor because he can't reach it, we just go ahead and scratch him so that he gets that itch scratched. So here you can see that I am stitching together the side seams. There's quite a bit of seam allowance on here simply because of how much smaller this seam or how much smaller this garment needed to be than the largest size. So if you guys watch this next clip closely, you will see a little thief. While I had my back turned and was ironing, this little boy stole my thimble, and he steals it all the time. So he's such a sneaky thief that at this point I didn't even realize it was gone until much later on that day, because here I'm just finishing up sewing together the side seams, and then after that I have to do all the hand sewing and fell down all of the seam allowances. So I didn't realize it was gone until it was time for me to use it again, and I didn't even know that he had stolen it. That he's such a sneaky thief. So I'm really happy with how this project came out. I think it looks really good. I just didn't like how much hand sewing there was involved in it, but I knew that going into it that there was going to be quite a bit of hand sewing, and it looks really good on him and he's happy with it. My only issue is I wish I had made the sleeves a little bit longer, like so that they would reach to closer to his wrist, but I didn't see in the instructions that you were supposed to change that. And I'm actually not even sure that you were supposed to change it. It talked about the length, but the length didn't really matter that much for him because he's not that tall. He's like 5'8". So the length was perfectly fine for the kimono for him. But overall, I am really happy with the results, and I am happy that he likes it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like my content and want to support my channel, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope everyone also has a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. I hope you have a good holiday season, and I will see you guys next year.